The Way of Water recently had a premiere where a bunch of media folks and critics got to see the movie early on, and although review embargo is only until next week, some happened to share their opinions online. Avatar Theory here, hope you're doing well and having a fantastic day. And on Rotten Tomatoes, the writer Christopher Campbell summarized most of the opinions in an article, and I'll leave a link to that article in the description and pinned comment below, as all credit goes to that writer. But basically, I want to go over some of the reactions and just dive into a little bit of a discussion afterwards. You can jump straight into a certain section in the timestamps if you wish to skip ahead. So how does it compare to the original? David from IndieWire said, light years better than the first. Ross from Collider said, considering how I found Avatar to be all style and no substance, I'm completely taken aback by how much Avatar The Way of Water rules. Courtney from Fresh Fiction said, Avatar The Way of Water is better than its predecessor in that there's more going on with the story and characters and its astounding technological advancements. Amon from Empire Magazine said, I like The Way of Water more than Avatar 2009, if for nothing else because it has less in-your-face white saviorism than the original. And finally, Clayton from Variety said, about on par with the first. So overall, there is a bit of a mixed response. Some people say it is better, some say it is on par. Most people say it is better, and it is interesting that some who even wasn't really that much of a fan of the original, like for example Ross from Collider, stated that even though they found Avatar to be all style, no substance, they thought Avatar The Way of Water ruled. So people who were mixed with the first one seem to really like the second one. So we should have trusted James Cameron from the beginning. Germain from io9.com said, James Cameron truly doesn't miss. Julia from New York Magazine says, Avatar The Way of Water might be James Cameron's sweetest, gentlest, most personal film, probably even his most emotional. It revisits all his greatest hits, but it's always totally sincere. He is never leaving Pandora. He loves his family. By the end, I did too. Thomas from AV Club said, James Cameron is that dying breed of filmmaker who can package the most accessible of human emotions and a beautifully coherent story inside a spectacular and innovative Hollywood package. Kevin from Awards Watch said, James Cameron now has not 2 but 3 of the best sequels ever made. Mike from Uproxx said, yeah, never bet against James Cameron. So it goes without saying that James Cameron is pretty much the king of sequels, because all of the sequels that he's made so far is just absolutely astounding. It's absolutely one of the best movies ever. I mean, if you look at Aliens, if you look at Terminator 2, and now with Avatar The Way of Water, it seems like it's going to be like no other movie out there. And honestly, based on past movies, I don't really know why people doubted James Cameron at all. How is the story? Perry from Collider said, as for the story, it's a lot of movie. A mighty effective exploration of community and family dynamics. Kevin from Awards Watch said, it is the story this time that's the beating heart. It's more personal, complicated, emotional. Ross from Collider said, Cameron really puts the focus on character this time, which does even more for building the world than visual effects. Ian from Digital Spy said, it does suffer from a thin story and too many characters to juggle, yet James Cameron pulls it all together for an extraordinary final act. Matt from Next Best Picture said, James Cameron's dialogue still struggles, but his storytelling soars as he emotionally invests us in the new characters and creatures. And Brandon from comicbook.com said, it's a better, more complex story than the first, with solid emotions, but the characters could grow a bit more. So of course, with all of the new characters that's going to be introduced in The Way of Water, obviously it would be a bit hard to give each of them enough screen time. So I do understand why people say that it is a lot of things to juggle with, and I can see some maybe saying that some characters are underdeveloped or not used properly, because like Perry from Collider said, it is a lot of movie. And how are the visual effects? Ian from Digital Spy said, unsurprisingly, Avatar The Way of Water is a visual masterpiece with rich use of 3D and breathtaking vistas. Tori from retro.co.uk said, Avatar The Way of Water is one of the most visually stunning films I've seen. Bilge from New York Magazine said, it is an absolutely mind-boggling that none of this stuff exists. I can't wrap my head around it. At some point you remember that it's all visual effects and your brain collapses. Mike from Uproxx, I've never seen anything like this from a technical visual standpoint. It's overwhelming, maybe too overwhelming. Sometimes I'd miss plot points because I'm staring at a Pandora fish. Kevin said, it's so impressive on a technical level, it's like almost offensive. And Perry from Collider said, I had faith that James Cameron would raise the bar with the effects, but these visuals are mind-blowing, one stunning frame after the next. But the thing I dug most is how the technical feats always feel in service of of character and world building. So I can understand how some people say that you might miss a few points because of the technical aspects. I mean, I'm somebody, if I watch a movie that's a visual treat, sometimes my eyes would just be jumping all over the screen trying to take in as much as I can, and more often than not, I'd miss a dialogue or two, a conversation or two. So I can see somebody needing to watch this movie maybe two or three times to really absorb everything. Certainly, I'm going to watch this 2 or 3 or 4 times in the cinema, but without a doubt, people are speechless because of the visual effects. What about the action? Amon said the action is pretty incredible, especially in the final act. Kevin said the action is breathtaking, and Germain said it has some of the most impressive sustained action scenes I've ever seen. So it does seem like in the final act there's a lot going to happen, and I'm guessing even though this is quite a long movie, it's going to feel like a short one based on just everything just happening so much on screen, and essentially it's going to feel like an incredible rollercoaster ride. Speaking of the film being too long, some did comment on that, like Brandon from comicbook.com said, Avatar The Way of Water being more than 3 hours long is both fulfilling and indulgent. Tomer said it earns every minute of its running time, while Zoe from Next Best Picture said, a lot of people have been asking me if Avatar The Way of Water feels long, and oddly enough, not really. It's a huge movie, not just visually, but in terms of all the storylines it's juggling too. But there's never a moment where I wasn't wholly engaged. It's hypnotic, honestly. So like I just said, even though it's a long movie, it's not going to feel like it, because I've watched movies that's honestly 90 minutes long, 90 minutes top, hour and a half, that feels like 2, almost 3 hours long, because I was just, nothing really happens in the movie and it was just not a great movie. Whereas I've seen movies that's 2.5, almost 3 hours long, and it feels like I've just watched an hour and a half movie, and when the credits roll, I just want more movie. Speaking about more, there was a question about if we should be excited for more Avatar sequels, and David from IndieWire said, I can't wait to see Avatar 3. That's basically all I wanted out of this, and it delivered in a big way, while Tori from metro.co.uk said, I don't know if the world needs Avatar 3, 4 and 5, but I'm glad we got Avatar 2. So, a bit of a mixed reaction there, one person saying they can't wait for Avatar 3, whereas Tori said that she's glad we got Avatar 2, and I know James Cameron did say that if Avatar 2 does succeed financially, that it is the start of a new franchise, of basically a new series of movies, and I can certainly see myself at the end when the credits roll on The Way of Water just wanting to see Avatar 3. There is of course a bunch more reactions and questions about The Way of Water, so I really recommend you check out the link in the description from Rotten Tomatoes by Christopher Campbell. But overall, across the board, like I said, it seems like people are positive about the movie, and even though some people who aren't major fans of The Way of Water still had some great things to say, which just goes to show, like I said, James Cameron is really the king of sequels. Regardless, we have about a week to wait until we see The Way of Water, and then we can decide for ourselves. But until then, if you want to stay up to date with everything Avatar related, have a look at the rest of my channel, and until next time, have a fantastic day and stay safe.